They found her 3 days later, barely breathing, locked in a soundproof room in his penthouse. The doctor said another hour and she would have been gone forever. But what's more chilling is that 23 other women had been in that same room before her. She was just the first one to survive long enough to tell the story. This is Maya's story, and it's a warning every young woman needs to hear.
Maya Chen was 24 years old, fresh out of university with a marketing degree and dreams bigger than her studio apartment in the city. She had moved from her small hometown with $500 and a suitcase full of hope. Life was hard, but she was making it work. That's when she met Derek Holloway. It was at a rooftop bar in the financial district, one of those places Maya couldn't normally afford but her friend Jessica had dragged her to for a birthday celebration. Maya was sipping a $12 cocktail, trying to make it last all night, when he approached. Tall, impeccably dressed in a tailored suit that probably cost more than her rent. Dark hair perfectly styled, a watch that gleamed under the ambient lighting. His smile was disarming, confident but not cocky. At least, that's how it seemed. "You look like you'd rather be anywhere but here," he said, his voice smooth as expensive whiskey. Maya laughed nervously. "Is it that obvious?" "Only to someone who feels the same way," he replied. "I'm Derek." They talked for hours that night. He told her he was 32, a venture capitalist who had made his fortune in tech startups. He name-dropped companies Maya had actually heard of, places that had changed the world. He was charming, attentive, asking questions about her life, her dreams, actually listening to the answers. Most impressive of all, he didn't immediately try to take her home. He asked for her number, texted her the next day, and asked her to dinner, a proper date. Over the next 3 months, Derek was everything Maya had ever dreamed of in a partner. He took her to restaurants where the waiters knew his name. He surprised her with thoughtful gifts, nothing too extravagant at first, just things that showed he was paying attention. A book by her favorite author, tickets to a concert she'd mentioned wanting to see. He introduced her to his world gradually, weekend trips to his lake house. Gallery openings where champagne flowed freely. Private dinners with other wealthy, influential people who treated Maya like she belonged. "You're different from other women I've dated," Derek told her one evening as they walked through a sculpture garden. "You're real, grounded, you haven't been corrupted by all this yet." Maya felt herself falling hard, but there were small things, little moments that didn't quite fit. The way Derek's jaw would tighten when she talked to other men, even waiters. How he always wanted to know exactly where she was, texting multiple times if she didn't respond within minutes. The way he scrolled through her phone once when she was in the shower, claiming he was just looking for a photo she'd mentioned. "I just care about you so much," he'd say when she gently questioned these behaviors. "In my world, you have to be careful. People aren't always what they seem." Maya ignored the red flags, because wasn't that what love was? Someone who cared deeply, who wanted to protect you? And besides, Derek was so perfect in every other way. Her friends had concerns. Jessica pulled her aside one night after they'd all gone out together. "May, don't you think he's a little intense? The way he watches you, it's like you're a possession, not a person." "You just don't understand," Maya defended him. "When you find someone who truly values you, it feels different. He's not like the broke guys we usually date who can't even plan a proper date." Jessica shook her head. "Money doesn't make a man safe, Maya. Sometimes it just makes him more dangerous." But Maya didn't listen. It was a Friday evening in late October when Derek made the invitation that would change everything. They were at his downtown penthouse, a space so luxurious it felt like something from a magazine. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, modern art on the walls, furniture that probably cost more than most people's cars. Maya had been there dozens of times, but never overnight. Derek had always insisted on taking her home, saying he wanted to do things right, to not rush the physical aspect of their relationship. "You're special," he told her. "I want to treat you with respect." At the time, Maya found it chivalrous. Looking back, she would realize it was calculation. That Friday, Derek poured them both wine, expensive Bordeaux from his climate-controlled collection. I've been thinking, he said, settling beside her on the leather couch. We've been together for 3 months now. I think I'm falling in love with you, Maya. Her heart soared. Derek, stay the night, he interrupted softly. I don't want you to leave. I want to wake up with you here. I want to show you what our life could really be like together. Maya felt a flutter of excitement mixed with nervousness. This felt like a turning point, the moment where their relationship became truly serious. Okay, she whispered. I'd love to. Derek's smile widened, but there was something in his eyes Maya couldn't quite read. Relief, triumph, it flickered past too quickly to identify. They had dinner, prepared by Derek's private chef. They watched the city lights and talked about the future. Derek spoke about taking her to Paris, about how she could quit her job if she wanted, focus on her passions while he supported her. It all sounded like a fairy tale. As the evening wore on, Maya felt herself relaxing, the wine warming her from the inside. She didn't notice that Derek barely touched his own glass. She didn't notice how he kept refilling hers, encouraging her to finish each pour. Around 11, Derek stood and extended his hand. Let me show you something, he said. I have a surprise for you. Maya took his hand, feeling slightly dizzy from the wine. She followed him down a hallway she'd never been down before, past the guest bedrooms and office she'd seen on previous visits. At the end of the hall was a door, heavy and metallic, completely different from the other doors in the penthouse. I had this room specially designed, Derek explained, pulling a key card from his pocket. It's completely private, soundproof. I come here when I need absolute peace, when the world gets too loud. He swiped the card. The lock clicked with a heavy, final sound. The door swung open. The room beyond was dimly lit, with soft red lighting that cast everything in an eerie glow. But it was what Maya saw in that crimson light that made her blood run cold. The walls were covered in black padding. There were restraints mounted at various points, chains hanging from reinforced fixtures in the ceiling. A St. Andrew's cross stood in one corner. Medical equipment lined one wall, things Maya couldn't identify but that looked clinical and cold. Video cameras were positioned in every corner, their red recording lights blinking like predatory eyes. And on one wall, behind glass-like trophies, were photographs. Dozens of photographs of different women, all in various states of distress, all in this very room. Maya's wine-fogged mind struggled to process what she was seeing. Derek, she said slowly, taking a step backward. What is this? He was blocking the doorway now, his expression completely changed. The warmth was gone, replaced by something cold and calculating. This, he said calmly, is where we're going to explore what real intimacy means. This is where you're going to help me satisfy needs that vanilla women like you can't even begin to understand. Maya's survival instincts finally kicked through the alcohol. She turned to run, but Derek was faster. His hand clamped around her wrist with crushing force. Maya, don't make this difficult, he said, his voice still eerily calm. You said you loved me. You said you wanted to be with me? This is part of who I am. You just have to trust me. Let me go, Maya screamed, trying to pull away. But Derek was strong, far stronger than she'd realized. He pulled her into the room, and she heard the heavy door slam shut behind them with a sound like a tomb ceiling. That's when Maya realized the horrible truth. She wasn't the first woman Derek had brought to this room. All those photographs on the wall, all those terrified faces. And she wouldn't be the last unless she found a way to survive. The first thing Derek did was show Maya the photographs up close, forcing her to look at each one. This is Jennifer, he said, pointing to a blonde woman with terror in her eyes. She lasted 2 days before she stopped being fun. This is Amber. She was more resilient, almost a full week. And this is Christine, Melissa, Rachel. Maya felt bile rising in her throat. What did you do to them? I helped them explore their boundaries, Derek said conversationally, as if discussing the weather. I showed them that pain and pleasure are two sides of the same coin. Most of them fought at first, like you're going to fight. But eventually, they all submitted. They had to. Where are they now? Maya demanded, tears streaming down her face. Did you let them go? Derek's smile was chilling. Some of them left. Some of them stayed, some of them. Well, they couldn't handle the intensity of the experience. But that's not going to be you, Maya. You're special. I chose you very carefully. He explained his methodology as he secured her wrist to one of the restraints, his movements practiced and efficient. He'd been doing this for years, he told her. Ever since his first girlfriend in college had introduced him to BDSM, but he'd quickly realized he wanted more than what consensual partners would give him. He wanted absolute control, absolute power. He'd learned how to select his victims carefully. Young women, usually new to the city, without strong family connections nearby. Women who were struggling financially, who could be dazzled by wealth and stability. Women who wouldn't be immediately missed if they disappeared for a few days. I watched you for 2 weeks before I approached you that night, Derek said casually. I knew which bar you'd be at. I knew everything about you, Maya, your schedule, your friends, your vulnerabilities. I even knew you'd been sending money home to your sick mother. You were perfect, desperate enough to overlook the warning signs. Maya's mind raced. She thought about her phone, left in her purse in Derek's living room. She thought about how she'd told Jessica she'd text when she got home, but Jessica wouldn't worry until tomorrow afternoon at the earliest. She thought about how Derek had systematically isolated her from her friends over the past 3 months, how she'd canceled plans to spend time with him, how he'd slowly convinced her that her friends didn't really understand their connection. She'd walked right into his trap. Please, Maya begged. Derek, you don't have to do this. Whatever you're into, we can talk about it. We can find a safe way. Safe, Derek laughed bitterly. I don't want safe, Maya. Safety is boring. The women I dated who tried to give me what they thought I wanted, with safe words and negotiations, they had no idea what I really needed. I need to see real fear, real helplessness. I need to know that you can't stop me, that your fate is entirely in my hands. He began to describe what he planned to do, each detail more horrifying than the last. He had drugs that would keep her conscious but compliant. He had equipment designed to cause maximum psychological distress without leaving permanent physical marks. He had days of experience to draw from, learning from each previous victim what worked best. But as Derek talked, lost in his own twisted fantasies, Maya was observing. She'd stopped pulling against the restraint on her wrist, forcing herself to breathe, to think. Panic would kill her. She needed to be smart. She noticed that Derek had only secured one wrist so far, too caught up in his monologue to finish the job. She noticed the key card to the door sitting on a table near the medical equipment, red light from above making it gleam. She noticed that for all his preparation, Derek was arrogant, confident that she was already beaten. He'd underestimated her. When Derek turned his back to select something from his equipment wall, Maya made her move. She grabbed a heavy metal pole from the nearest St. Andrew's cross and swung it with all her strength at the back of his head. The impact made a sickening thud. Derek crumpled to the padded floor, unconscious but breathing. Maya's hands shook as she searched his pockets for the key card, found it, and fumbled with the restraint on her wrist. It took precious seconds to figure out the mechanism, seconds where Derek might wake up, but finally it released. She ran to the door, swiped the card. Nothing happened. She swiped again. Still nothing. That's when Maya realized her second horrible truth of the night. The card that opened the door from the outside didn't work from the inside. This room was designed to be a prison, and Derek had a different method of exit. She was still trapped. Maya fought down the scream building in her throat. Panic wouldn't help. She needed to think. Derek was still unconscious on the floor, blood trickling from where she'd hit him. How long did she have before he woke up? Minutes, seconds. She searched the room frantically, looking for anything that could help. The cameras were still recording, their red lights mocking her. She went to the medical equipment, searching through drawers with shaking hands. That's when she found them. Syringes, vials of clear liquid with chemical names she didn't recognize. Sedatives, she realized. This is what Derek had planned to use on her. Maya had taken basic biology in college, but she had no idea about proper dosages. Too little and Derek would wake up fighting. Too much and she could kill him. The thought stopped her cold. Could she do that? Could she deliberately take another person's life, even in self-defense, even someone as monstrous as Derek? Before she could decide, Derek groaned. He was waking up. Maya made a split-second decision. She grabbed a vial and syringe, drew up what she hoped was a significant but not lethal dose, and plunged it into Derek's shoulder just as his eyes fluttered open. "You ... Bitch," he slurred, reaching for her. But the drug worked fast. His movements became sluggish, uncoordinated. Within seconds, he collapsed again, his breathing deep and regular. Maya stepped back, chest heaving. She'd bought herself time, but she was still locked in this nightmare room. She examined the door more carefully now, running her hands along its edges, looking for any weakness. It was solid steel, the lock mechanism complex and electronic. There was no way she was breaking through it. She looked up. The ceiling was standard drywall between the padding. She remembered Derek mentioning the room was soundproof. That meant extra insulation, probably multiple layers of material. But above that was the rest of the penthouse. Maya dragged the medical equipment table under one of the corners, climbed on top, and began tearing at the ceiling padding and drywall with her bare hands. Her manicured nails broke and bled, but she didn't stop. She clawed through insulation, through layers of soundproofing material, through another layer of drywall. Finally, her hand broke through into open air. She was in the crawl space above the ceiling of the floor below. The opening she'd made was barely large enough, but Maya didn't care. She pulled herself up, squeezing through, ignoring the cuts and scrapes. She found herself in a dark space filled with ductwork and wiring, having to crawl on her hands and knees. She had no idea where she was going. She just knew she had to get away from that room, away from Derek. After what felt like hours but was probably only minutes, Maya found another ceiling access panel. She pushed it aside and looked down into what appeared to be a storage room. She dropped down, landing hard on concrete floor. She was somewhere in the service areas of the building, areas Derek's penthouse guests never saw. Maya ran, following exit signs, her breath ragged in her chest. She burst through a door and found herself in a stairwell. Up or down, Derek's penthouse was on the top floor. Down meant exit, meant freedom, meant help. Maya ran down the stairs, taking them two at a time, nearly falling several times. 20 floors, 15, 10. Behind her, she heard a door slam open. Footsteps on the stairs above her, heavy and fast. Derek was awake. Derek was coming. Maya, his voice echoed in the stairwell, no longer calm and controlled but furious and raw. "You can't get away. The building security works for me. Every exit is covered." Maya didn't stop. 5 floors. 3, 1. She crashed through the ground floor door into the lobby. It was after midnight now, the marble space mostly empty except for a security guard behind a desk. "Help," Maya screamed. "Please, help me. He's trying to kill me." The security guard looked up, and Maya's heart sank. She saw recognition flash across his face. He knew Derek, and from his expression, Maya realized with horror that he knew about the room. "Ma'am, please calm down," the guard said, standing and moving around the desk. But he wasn't reaching for his radio. He was positioning himself between Maya and the exit. Derek burst through the stairwell door behind her, his face a mask of rage and something that had leaked from his head injury. "Thank you, Marcus," Derek said, his voice straining for control. "My girlfriend had too much to drink. She's confused. I'm going to take her back upstairs." "No," Maya screamed. "He's lying. He has a torture room. He's hurt other women. Check your security footage." Marcus hesitated, glancing between them. Maya saw the moment of doubt in his eyes. That moment was all she needed. Maya bolted, not for the front door where Marcus could catch her, but for the glass wall beside it. She grabbed a heavy ashtray stand and hurled it with all her strength. The glass exploded outward in a shower of shards. Alarms began blaring. Maya didn't care about the cuts as she climbed through the opening, out into the night air of the city. She ran into the street, directly into traffic. Cars screeched to a halt. People shouted. Maya ran to the first stopped car, pounding on the window. "Call 911. She screamed. "Please, call the police." Behind her, Derek stood in the shattered opening, calculating whether he could still salvage this, whether he could still spin the story. But there were too many witnesses now, too many phones pointed in his direction. He turned and ran back into the building. The police found Derek trying to wipe the hard drives in his penthouse, trying to destroy the evidence in that room. But Maya had been right about one thing: everything was recorded. And Derek hadn't managed to erase it all before they breached his door. The hard drives contained a catalog of horrors. 23 women over the past 7 years. Most had eventually been released, traumatized, and terrorized into silence with threats about Derek's wealth and connections. Some had moved away, changed their names, tried to forget. 3 had never left that room alive. The media called it the penthouse horror. Derek Holloway, venture capitalist and secret predator, became the monster parents warned their daughters about. But here's what the media coverage often glossed over, the part that Maya wants every young woman to hear. Derek wasn't an anomaly. He wasn't some rare monster that crawled out of the darkness. He was a product of a system that protected men like him, that allowed wealth to become a shield for evil. Marcus, the security guard, eventually testified that he'd known something was wrong for years. He'd seen women come and go from that penthouse, some looking shaken and broken. But Derek paid him extra to look the other way, and Marcus needed the job. The building management knew too, or at least suspected, but Derek owned his penthouse outright and donated generously to the Homeowners Association. Derek's friends in those expensive restaurants, at those gallery openings. When questioned, many admitted they'd heard rumors, whispers about Derek's tastes, about women who'd dated him and disappeared from social circles. But they'd said nothing. In their world, you protected your own. The system had failed 23 women because Derek Holloway had money, charm, and connections. Maya spent 3 weeks in the hospital, physically recovering from her injuries and beginning the long process of psychological healing that would take years. The other survivors began to come forward, finding strength in numbers, in Maya's survival. At Derek's trial, Maya stood and testified. She looked her nightmare in the face and refused to let him have power over her anymore. "You thought you could take everything from me," she said, "my trust, my autonomy, my life. But you couldn't take my will to survive. You couldn't take my voice." Derek was convicted on multiple counts, including 3 counts of murder. He's currently serving life without the possibility of parole. But Maya knows there are others like him out there. And she wants every young woman to understand something crucial. This is Maya's message, delivered at colleges and community centers, shared on social media, broadcast anywhere young women will listen. The modern dating world is full of Derek Holloways. They might not all have torture rooms, but they all share certain traits, certain red flags that women are taught to ignore or excuse. First, love bombing. When someone comes on too strong, too fast, showering you with expensive gifts and attention, it's not romance. It's a hunting technique. Predators know that overwhelming generosity creates a sense of debt, makes you feel like you owe them something. Second, isolation. If a new partner tries to separate you from your friends and family, claims they're the only one who really understands you, criticizes your support system, run. Isolation is a predator's most effective tool. They need you alone to have complete control. Third, possessiveness disguised as care. "I'm just worried about you" becomes "you can't see your friends." "I care so much" becomes "let me check your phone." Real love trusts. Real love gives freedom. Fourth, wealth as a weapon. Rich men aren't inherently dangerous, but predators who happen to be wealthy have more tools at their disposal. They can buy silence, buy complicity, buy their way out of consequences. They can make you dependent on them financially, trap you in golden cages. They use their money to create the illusion that they're untouchable, above normal rules. Fifth, moving too fast physically. If someone wants you to commit to situations where you're vulnerable, staying over, going on isolated trips, meeting in private spaces before you really know them, before you've met their friends and family, before you've seen how they handle conflict or disappointment, that's a warning sign. Sixth, trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Women are socialized to be polite, to give people the benefit of the doubt, to not make scenes or hurt feelings. But your survival is more important than someone else's feelings. That discomfort you feel. That's your evolutionary alarm system. Listen to it. 7th, tell people where you are. Always. Maya's biggest mistake was not telling anyone she was staying at Derek's that night. Have a system with friends check-ins, code words, location sharing. Make yourself undisappearable. 8th, research your dates. In the age of social media, there's no excuse not to. Look them up. See what comes up. Talk to people who know them. Maya wishes she'd done this with Derek. Several of his ex-girlfriends had tried to warn people online, but their posts had been buried by Derek's money and lawyers. 9th, understand that predators don't look like monsters. Derek was handsome, successful, charming. He knew exactly what to say, how to act, how to make Maya feel special and chosen. Predators are often the most charismatic people in the room. That's how they succeed. 10th, know that it's not your fault. If something happens, if you miss the red flags or trust the wrong person, it is not your fault. The only person responsible for Derek's actions was Derek. Maya sometimes still struggles with guilt, wondering what she could have done differently. But her therapist reminds her, the only thing she did wrong was be kind and trusting. Those aren't flaws. Those are beautiful human traits that predators exploit. The statistics are sobering. 1 in 4 women will experience severe physical violence from an intimate partner. 1 in 5 women will be raped in her lifetime. These aren't random street attacks. These are partners, dates, people women trusted. Young women today face unique challenges. Dating apps make it easier than ever to meet strangers. Social media creates carefully curated personas that hide the truth. The wealth gap means some men have unprecedented resources to abuse. But women also have unprecedented tools to protect themselves. Information, community, the ability to expose predators in ways previous generations couldn't. Maya started a foundation. It's called Survive and Tell. It helps survivors of intimate partner violence escape dangerous situations, provides resources, creates community. It also educates young women about red flags, about self-protection, about trusting their instincts. Today, Maya is 30 years old. She's in therapy, working through her trauma. She has nightmares sometimes, nights where she wakes up feeling like she's back in that red-lit room. But she's alive. She survived, and she wants other women to survive too. So to every young woman listening to this story, be careful, be smart, be suspicious. Don't let the promise of love or security or excitement make you ignore the warning signs. Your life is precious. Your safety matters more than politeness, more than not wanting to seem paranoid, more than giving someone the benefit of the doubt. Derek Holloway tried to take everything from Maya that night. But he couldn't take her voice, her strength, or her determination to make sure he was the last predator she'd ever encounter. Learn from her story, stay safe, stay vigilant. And remember, the most dangerous monsters are the ones who don't look like monsters at all. Trust your gut. Tell your friends. And never, ever ignore the red flags. Your life might depend on it.